On March 18, 1990, two men wearing police uniforms approached the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston at 1:24 a.m. and, according to museum security records, they claimed to be responding to a disturbance call. The guards allowed them inside. 81 minutes later, the men left with 13 irreplaceable artworks valued at over $500 million. The theft would become the largest art heist in recorded history. Today, 34 years later, the empty frames still hang on the museum walls exactly where Isabella Stewart Gardner placed them over a century ago. The FBI has followed thousands of leads across 6 continents. They have offered a $10 million reward for information, leading to recovery of the stolen works. Despite one of the longest-running investigations in FBI history, not a single piece has been recovered. The identity of the thieves remains unknown. How did two men walk into one of America's most prestigious museums and disappear with priceless masterpieces that have never been seen again? The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum stands in Boston's Fenway neighborhood, a Venetian palace built by one of America's most determined art collectors. Isabella Stewart Gardner, born in 1840 to a wealthy New York family, began acquiring masterpieces during her travels across Europe in the late 1800s. According to museum archives, she purchased works by Rembrandt, Vermeer, Degas, and Manet directly from European dealers and auction houses. Gardner designed her museum as a living artwork itself, specifying in her will that nothing could ever be moved or rearranged. The museum opened to the public in 1903, displaying over 2,500 objects in rooms designed to replicate European palaces and monasteries. By 1990, the Gardner Museum housed one of the world's most valuable private art collections. The stolen works included Rembrandt's only known seascape, The Storm on the Sea of Galilee, completed in 1633. Vermeer's The Concert, painted around 1664, was one of only 34 known works by the Dutch master. According to art historians, these pieces were considered priceless due to their rarity and historical significance. The museum employed a small security staff and relied on basic alarm systems typical of the era. Night security consisted of 2 guards who patrolled the galleries and monitored a limited camera system. The building's Victorian-era construction included numerous blind spots and areas without electronic surveillance. Records showed the museum had experienced no previous major security incidents since opening 87 years earlier. At 1:24 a.m. on March 18, 1990, security guard Richard Abath was manning the museum's front desk when 2 men approached the employee entrance. According to Abath's testimony to investigators, the men wore Boston police uniforms and claimed they were responding to a disturbance call in the area. The men requested entry to investigate reports of suspicious activity near the museum. Abath, 23 years old and employed at the museum for 1 year, made a decision that violated standard security protocol. He opened the door and allowed the men inside. Museum records show that guards were specifically trained never to admit anyone after hours, regardless of claimed authority. Once inside, the men informed Abath and his partner, Randy Heston, that they matched the description of suspects in a previous investigation. The guards were instructed to step away from their posts and move to the museum's basement. According to FBI reports, the thieves used handcuffs and duct tape to restrain both guards in separate basement rooms. The men then disabled the museum's motion detection system and began systematically removing artwork from specific galleries. Security footage, later reviewed by investigators, showed the thieves spent exactly 81 minutes inside the museum. They removed 13 pieces, including paintings, sketches, and a bronze eagle finial from a Napoleonic flag. The thieves cut several paintings from their frames using sharp instruments, leaving the ornate frames hanging empty on the wall. At 2:45 a.m., the men exited through the same employee entrance, loading the stolen artwork into a vehicle parked outside. The guards remained bound in the basement, until the morning shift arrived at 8:15 a.m. and discovered them. Boston police arrived at the Gardner Museum at 8:32 a.m. on March 18, followed by FBI agents who assumed jurisdiction over the case due to the interstate nature of art theft. According to the initial police report, investigators found no signs of forced entry at any doors or windows, confirming that the thieves gained access through deception rather than breaking and entering. FBI forensic specialists collected fingerprints from surfaces the thieves had touched, but laboratory analysis revealed no matches in federal databases. The security videotape system had been activated during the theft, but investigators discovered that the thieves had removed the tapes from the recording equipment before leaving. However, motion detectors throughout the museum provided investigators with a detailed timeline of the thieves' movements through specific galleries. FBI records showed the men spent most of their time in the Dutch Room, where they removed Rembrandt's Storm on the Sea of Galilee and Vermeer's The Concert. They also visited the Short Gallery, taking 5 Degas drawings and a Manet painting. Investigators noted that the thieves demonstrated knowledge of the museum's layout and appeared to target specific high-value pieces while ignoring other valuable works in the same rooms. Within weeks of the theft, the FBI received hundreds of tips from the public, leading agents to interview art dealers, known criminals, and museum employees across New England. Court records from subsequent investigations revealed that federal prosecutors pursued several organized crime connections, including alleged links to members of the Patriarca crime family based in Providence, Rhode Island. In 2013, FBI officials announced they had identified the thieves, but did not release names, stating that both individuals were deceased. The Bureau claimed to know the location where the artworks had been stored in the years immediately following the theft, but searches of those locations yielded no evidence. Despite these developments, no arrests were ever made, and no physical evidence of the stolen works has been recovered. The FBI has interviewed thousands of witnesses and pursued leads in countries including Japan, France, and the United Kingdom, making it one of the longest-running investigations in Bureau history. No charges have ever been filed in connection with the Gardner Museum theft, making it one of America's most prominent unsolved crimes. The FBI maintains an active investigation more than 3 decades after the theft occurred, with agents continuing to pursue leads and interview witnesses. In 2017, the museum increased its reward offer to $10 million for information, leading to the recovery of all stolen works in good condition, representing the largest bounty in private reward history. Federal investigators have publicly stated their belief that the artwork remained in the Boston area for several years after the theft, before being moved to other locations. According to FBI statements, the stolen pieces may have changed hands multiple times among criminal organizations and private collectors. The Bureau has specifically requested information about Robert Garante, a deceased Connecticut mobster who allegedly had possession of some stolen works, and Carmelo Merlino, a deceased Dorchester auto body shop owner with alleged connections to the case. Museum officials maintain that the empty frames will remain on display until the artworks are recovered, serving as placeholders for Isabella Stewart Gardner's original vision. The theft has had lasting impacts on museum security practices nationwide, with institutions implementing enhanced guard training, improved surveillance systems, and stricter access protocols. Insurance companies have never paid claims for the stolen works, as the museum's policy contained provisions that void coverage in cases of theft by deception. Art recovery specialists estimate that the works would be nearly impossible to sell through legitimate auction houses due to their fame and the ongoing FBI investigation. The stolen pieces remain on the FBI's National Stolen Art File and Interpol's database of stolen cultural objects. Despite decades of investigation and millions of dollars in reward money, the case remains open with active federal jurisdiction. The Gardner Museum continues to operate as both an art institution and a crime scene, with visitors often drawn as much by the mystery of the empty frames as by the remaining collection. The Gardner Museum theft represents more than a criminal case. It stands as a symbol of cultural heritage lost to crime. The stolen masterpieces were created centuries ago by artists whose works survive in limited quantities, making their loss irreplaceable to human civilization. Museums worldwide have implemented enhanced security measures directly inspired by the Gardner case, including mandatory two-person security teams, advanced motion detection systems, and strict protocols for after-hours access. The FBI's continued investigation demonstrates the federal commitment to recovering stolen cultural property, even decades after initial crimes occur. Art historians note that the missing works represent crucial gaps in our understanding of Vermeer and Rembrandt's artistic development, as scholars cannot study or analyze pieces held in private collections. The case has inspired numerous books, documentaries, and academic studies, examining both the technical aspects of the theft and its broader implications for cultural preservation. The $10 million reward remains available to anyone who can provide information leading to the artwork's recovery in good condition. The FBI encourages anyone with knowledge of the stolen pieces to contact federal authorities, emphasizing that the investigation remains active and ongoing. The Gardner Museum's decision to maintain the empty frames serves as a powerful reminder that these masterpieces belong in public trust, accessible to future generations of visitors and scholars. What theories do you have about where these irreplaceable masterpieces might be today? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more documented stories from the world's greatest unsolved cases. This content is based on publicly available court records, news reports, and official FBI investigations.